With Disney Lorcana just releasing, I thought it would be good to go through each ink color's strengths and weaknesses to help you in picking which two colors to build your deck with. Starting with Amber. Amber is all about characters and healing. Hades, King of Olympus, gains lore based on the amount of villain characters you have on the board. Stitch, Carefree Surfer, lets you draw two cards if there are already two or more other characters in play on your side of the board. Stitch Rockstar lets you exert a 2 cost or less card that was just played on your side to draw a card, which Amber can get out cheap characters quick. They have the most 1 and 2 cost characters with 8, and 7 of those are inkable. Add in cards like Just in Time, which allows you to play a 5 or less character for only 3 cost, or the item card Lantern, which when exerted lets you pay 1 less ink for the next character you play, and you can get plenty of characters on board quick. Also, Be Our Guest lets you look at the top 4 cards in your deck and reveal a character to add to your hand. Part of Your World lets you return a character from your discard to your hand. This is the same as Hades, Lord of the Underworld. Again, all of these emphasizing characters. Amber also boasts a variety of healing cards. Rapunzel is able to remove 3 damage from one of your characters and get to draw a card for each damage removed this way. Hakuna Matata lets you remove up to 3 damage from each of your characters. Item card Dinglehopper lets you exert the card to remove a damage from a character, and Healing Glow lets you remove up to 2 damage from a character. Overall, I believe Amber is a very good ink color. If the other color you pick to go with in your deck struggles with early board presence or would just benefit from having lots of characters on board early, this is a great color choice. Second, we have Amethyst, which emphasizes draw power and control. The most powerful thing Amethyst can help with is draw power. The Queen Wicked and Vain lets you exert herself to draw a card. Friends on the Other Side lets you draw 2 cards. Maleficent Sorceress lets you draw a card when she is played. Finally, the item Magic Mirror for 4 ink can let you draw a card. With all this draw power, Amethyst also has a nice way of controlling what you are going to be drawing. Ursula's Cauldron, when exerted, lets you look at the top 2 cards of your deck and put one on the top and the other on the bottom. The 1-cost song Reflection lets you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, putting them back on the top in any order you'd like. Yzma Alchemist, when questing, lets you look at the top card of your deck and leave it there or put it on the bottom of the deck. Elsa, Spirit of Winter, lets you exert 2 chosen characters when she is played, and those characters cannot ready at the start of their next turn. This could be helpful if your opponent is close to their ink goal and you don't want them questing next turn. Freeze and Elsa, Snow Queen, let you exert an opposing character, while Anna, Heir to Arendelle, as long as you have an Elsa in play, lets you choose a character that will not ready at the start of their next turn. Amethyst excels early and mid-game, being able to get through your deck and controlling the cards on the board, but really lacks a big payoff in the late game. Our third color, Emerald, is great with questing and action cards. Emerald really stresses questing, having the most 3 base lore cards and most 2 base lore cards, while also punishing opposing characters for challenging your exerted cards that you just sent on a quest. Cruella de Vil, Miserable as Usual, lets you return the character that challenged her and banished her back to the other player's hand. Kuzco, Temperamental Emperor, and Cheshire Cat, Not All There, when challenged and banished, lets you banish the challenging character. Genie on the Job, when played, lets you return a chosen character to their player's hand. The 3-cost song Mother Knows Best lets you return a chosen character to the player's hand. Emerald's other importance is action cards. Genie Powers Unleash, one of those 3 lore cards, lets you play an action that costs 5 or less for free when they're questing. The item card Dr. Facilier's Cards lets you exert to pay 1 less ink for the next action card you play. Do It Again lets you return an action card from your discard pile to your hand, while Lady Tremaine Wicked Stepmother lets you do this when she is played. When you play an action card, Mickey Mouse Artful Rogue lets you choose an opposing character and not let them quest during their next turn. Emerald has a few good actions right now, like Steal from the Rich, which, when played, each of your character's quests this turn, each opponent loses one lore. With how much questing you should be doing with Emerald, this could be a big payoff. Stampede lets you deal 2 damage to an already damaged character, and Vicious Betrayal gives a character 2 additional strength, or 3 if the chosen character was a villain. I assume as we get future chapters, Emerald will get better item cards. Emerald is great in the early to mid game with their early quests and punishing characters that challenge your cards, but lacks a great payoff in the end game. Ruby's highlights are big cards and removal. Ruby is tied for the most 5 cost or more cards with 14, and 9 of those are 6 cost or more, and that is the most of all the ink colors. These big cards are great late game, including the hero of this chapter, Mickey Mouse Brave Little Tailor, having 4 lore, the highest base lore, and evasive, so he can only be challenged by other evasive characters. Whenever Aladdin Heroic Outlaw banishes another character in a challenge, you gain 2 lore and each opponent loses 2 lore. Maui Hero to All might be one of my favorite 5 ink characters, boasting a 6/5 line and rush, allowing him to challenge on the turn he has played. Another big beatstick is Taka, the Burning One, with a whopping 8 strength. The place Ruby shines the most is removal, and the biggest one of those in this whole chapter is Be Prepared, which banishes all characters. This can be very beneficial to the player, as you can quest with all your characters, then banish everyone's characters. Dragonfire for 5 ink will let you banish any character, and the big bad Maleficent Monstrous Dragon can banish a character when they're played. Ruby struggles in the early to mid game because of such expensive cards, but if you can make it to turn 7 and wipe the board with Be Prepared, Ruby is a great late game color. Sapphire is the main ramp color, while also highlighting item cards. This color really pushes getting cards in your inkwell as fast as possible. Fishbone Quill, when exerted, lets you put any card from your hand into your inkwell face down. Grandma Tala, Storyteller, when banished, lets you put her into your inkwell face down and exerted. One Jump Ahead lets you put the top card of your deck into your inkwell face down and exerted. Mickey Mouse Detective lets you do the same thing when he is played. One of Sapphire's payouts for all this ink is Belle, Strange but Special. Lets you put a card from your hand into your inkwell face down, like others mentioned, but quests for 5 lore when there are 10 or more cards in your inkwell. Sapphire's removal cards also involve the opponent's inkwell, with Hades' Infernal Schemer removing an opponent's character and putting them in that player's inkwell when played, and Let It Go doing the same thing as a 5-cost song. Sapphire also has the most cards that interact with items. Tamatoa So Shiny is base 1 lore, but gains 1 lore for each item you have in play. If it's not Baroque, lets you return an item from your discard to your hand. Ariel Who's It Collector lets you ready her when you play an item. Belle Inventive Engineer lets you pay 1 less ink for the next item you play when she quests. Belle's father Maurice, world famous inventor, does the same thing, but it's 2 less for the next item card you played, and adds whenever you play an item card, you get to draw a card. Sapphire has a few good item cards. Fishbone Quill that was mentioned earlier, Eye of the Fates, which when exerted, a chosen character quests for 1 more lore this turn. Magic Golden Flower lets you banish it to remove up to 3 damage from a character. And Coconut Basket lets you remove 2 damage from a chosen character each time you play a character. Sapphire can be a little limited early game while they focus on ramping their inkwell up, and can run out of cards if not monitored, but this is far and away the best color to get lots of ink quick. Steel is all about challenging other characters and dealing damage. Prince Eric gets +2 strength when challenging, making him a 3 strength for 2 ink. Captain Hook, Forceful Duelist, is also a +2 challenger and a 3 strength when challenging, but for only 1 ink. Simba Returned King is a challenger +4, making him a whopping 8 strength on your turn, while also gaining evasive on your turn to deal with pesky evasive cards. Simba Rightful Heir lets you gain a lore when you banish another character in a challenge, and Taka Heartless does the same thing but gains 2 lore. Steel also has two cards that control what characters can challenge you when they are in play. Captain Hook Thinking a Happy Thought is another challenger card +3, but his other ability doesn't let characters with 3 or less cost challenge him, while Gantu Galactic Federation Captain, while expensive, doesn't let any opposing character that costs 2 or less challenge any of your characters. Second, Steel is just good at dealing targeted damage. The item card Plasma Blaster, when exerted and spending 2 ink, deals 1 damage to a character. Han's 13th in line lets you deal a damage to a character when he quests. Grab Your Sword lets you deal 2 damage to each opposing character. Fire the Cannons lets you deal 2 damage to a character, while Smash deals 3 damage to a character. Finally, the chase card in this color, and probably the whole set, Tinkerbell Giant Fairy, when played, deals 1 damage to each opposing character, and whenever she banishes another character in a challenge, gets to deal 2 damage to a character. Overall, Steel is great at early game board control with all their damage dealing and challenge focus cards, but if your opponent is able to keep up, Steel could be limited late game with only one 3-Lord character in Maui Demigod.